Hello and welcome to The Deep Dive. Today we're inviting you to imagine something really quite transformative. Picture a life free from those limits we often feel, where, every thought, every action aligns with some higher purpose. What would it mean, really, if you could tap into this infinite source of wisdom and love? And not somewhere out there, but right inside you. It's a pretty compelling thought, isn't it?
It really is. And for a lot of people, I think it might sound almost too good to be true, maybe. Like an ideal you can't quite reach. Yet this deep dive today, it's really about exploring how that might actually be possible. Moving it from just philosophy into something more like a practical roadmap.
Exactly. We're setting off on a journey into some pretty deep concepts, self-realization, higher consciousness. And our guide for this is Joseph Benner's really powerful work, A Viagem ao Eu Superior, a sua divindade interior, which, translates roughly to the journey to the superior self, your inner divinity.
Yeah, and Benner's book, it's not just thinking for thinking's sake. It offers what you could genuinely call a map for personal liberation. So our mission today, really, is to unpack how this work challenges those old limiting beliefs. The ones that keep us feeling stuck or anxious, maybe overwhelmed sometimes.
Right.
It sort of shines a light on a path toward a new kind of consciousness, a transformative one where, as Benner puts it so beautifully, the good and the real become visible.
And the implications of that are just huge, aren't they? It means seeing, everything in your life through a completely different lens, leading to a life that feels full of meaning, purpose, and has a positive impact on the world around you. And this isn't just abstract stuff. It's a perspective that has genuinely touched, tens of thousands of lives, really shifted how people see themselves.
It truly has. So what this deep dive offers you as a listener is maybe a kind of shortcut, a way to grasp this powerful perspective, one that encourages you to actively participate in creating your own meaningful life instead of just feeling like, a spectator, watching it all happen.
Yeah.
It's really an invitation to step into a new way of being, armed with insights that empower you to be a deliberate creator of your own reality.
Okay, so let's dive right in then. Our journey starts with something pretty provocative, I'd say, an idea that might really shake up some core assumptions. The central idea Joseph Benner kicks off with is this radical assertion: God is within you. And he doesn't seem to mean it metaphorically. It's presented as this foundational truth. It challenges that traditional view of God being distant, external, somewhere in the heavens. It brings the divine right into the most intimate part of us.
Exactly. And what Benner asks you to consider right off the bat is the very life that animates you, that force, that makes you grow, experience things, just be. He argues this life isn't yours in the sense that your personal ego controls it.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. This life force, it makes you do things, compels you to do things, often without you consciously deciding, right?
Yeah.
And Benner suggests it does this with a very wise and loving purpose, guiding us through whatever experiences we need.
That's fascinating, especially when you take that idea beyond just the physical life force. Benner applies to our consciousness too. Our thoughts, ideas, impressions, they often just seem to pop into our heads, don't they? When they want, as he puts it. We often feel we have little power to stop them, even when they're really affecting how we feel or what we do. It's almost like our minds are just receivers for signals from somewhere deeper.
Precisely. And that ties into our sense of personal power, or maybe lack thereof. The text makes this really challenging argument, initially anyway, that we actually have no power of our own in an isolated, egoic sense. We can only think, speak, act because the power to do these things is given to you from within.
Wow.
So there's this implied inner source, this wellspring of ability that's way beyond just our individual will.
So this inner source, life, consciousness, power, this something that seems to be doing all this through us. Benner describes it as unquestionably a something greater, far wiser, and very loving. A presence that always knows what to do, knows the end before the beginning. It's like it's constantly trying to teach us, trying to show our human mind the laws of how things work, how manifestation happens, like an active guide inside us.
And then he gives it a name. This something is introduced clearly as the superior self. And here's where the connection gets really profound. The superior self is, in fact, God himself in you.
Right.
Benner describes it like a ray or reflection of the mind of God shining deep within your consciousness. It's not just a little piece. It's the divine essence, God, right there, active within you.
But, okay, here's the catch, isn't it? And it's a big one for most of us, I think. This divine light, this superior self, it shines in the darkness, but the darkness of the outer human mind does not know it. We're just too caught up in the outside world and what Benner calls our mortal consciousness to really notice it. It's like having this incredibly bright light inside, but being totally focused on the shadows dancing on the wall.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And the key insight Benner offers here is that for those who do manage to quiet that noisy outer mind, who tune in to this inner wisdom, well, the reward is huge. He says those who listen and obey this divine source, they get a glimpse of something wonderful, which, though inexpressible, is wholly divine and very satisfying. It's an experience, not just an idea, a direct, deeply fulfilling encounter with divine truth.
Okay, so from that really potent idea of the divine within us, Benner then zooms out, right, to an even bigger concept. God is all in all. Now, that sounds comforting, but what does it really mean for how we see reality?
It means God is literally in everything and everyone, no exceptions. There's no part of existence, no person, no object, no event that is separate from the divine. So if that's true, then everything we see, everything that happens, every single person is fundamentally an expression of God's perfect nature. It's just everywhere, all-encompassing.
Right. And that links back perfectly to that light that illuminates every man that we talked about. That light must be that ray of God's mind shining in the darkness of the human mind, always trying to wake us up to our divine source. It's this divine mind from which derives all that you are, all that you have, and all power to be, to know, or to do anything. It's the single origin point for everything.
Which immediately makes you think, though, doesn't it? If God is truly all in all, this perfect presence everywhere, then who among us always sees and recognizes it as such?
Yeah, why don't we see it?
Why do we fail so often to see God in everything? Benner's take is that we actually refuse to see it. We mistakenly perceive all the error, evil, and lies that our obscured minds have accepted as real. It's like we're choosing to look through a dirty, distorted window pane of our own making.
So we're basically mislabeling reality, calling it what it is not. And that leads us, as the text puts it, to get lost in the labyrinth of our separate misconceptions. These ideas we build up in our heads, thinking they're separate from this big divine consciousness. And Benner's really clear about the result of that. It creates all the disharmonies, sickness, and suffering we experience.
And the flip side of that, the profound insight, is that if God is truly all in all, then inherently all things and all men are good and perfect.
Wow.
They could not be otherwise, because God, who is goodness and perfection, is in everything. Now, that idea really bumps up against our everyday experience, where things often seem far from perfect.
It really does. But Benner clarifies this, doesn't he? He's quick to say this isn't about ignoring the appearances right now. He's not saying everything looks perfect in our immediate world. Those appearances, he argues, are creations of your separated mind and your present understanding. What we're seeing are images you have built in your mind of what you thought was truth. We're kind of living inside our own mental projections.
And a really crucial point he makes is about conviction. To actually perceive God's goodness, beauty, and perfection in everything, you have to first convince your mind of the truth of God's omnipresence and inherent perfection.
Okay.
That, he says, is the essential step to free your mind from all the false beliefs and false images of God it's been carrying around, probably without even realizing it. It's like a mental reset.
And the logic seems pretty solid. If God is all in all, then God, being all good and all perfect, must also be all wise, all loving, and all powerful.
Exactly.
So any idea of God that's less than that, a God who's sometimes angry or limited or flawed, Benner basically calls that a wrong, ignorant, and distorted concept of God.
Which brings us right back to how our beliefs shape our reality. How does this play out day to day? Benner claims that all the disharmonious or unhappy things you see are only what you believe them to be due to ignorance or wrong teaching. In other words, our suffering isn't some external force attacking us. It's largely reflecting our own internal belief system, often unconscious stuff.
And the power of those beliefs is just immense for us personally. As long as you continue to believe these things are real, they will continue to be real to you. This affects everything, our physical health, our body, our work, our relationships, even those invisible things that relate to and affect your life, health, and happiness.
Yeah.
Benner really drives home that our inner world creates our outer experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a powerful link.
Okay, so this whole idea of God's omnipresence, it leads us really naturally to this next major connection Benner makes. He states, quite simply, God is your true self. If God is truly all in all, this everywhere present, all good, all perfect force we've been talking about, then logically, that divine essence has to be the real you too.
Exactly, that's the core of it. Benner elaborates, saying this is the superior and greater you.
Yeah.
It's life that illuminates your body, it's divine mind that influences your thoughts, it's power that lets you do anything. It's that divine spark deep inside, the essence of who you are beyond the temporary stuff.
And the text breaks this down using different levels of consciousness, which is interesting. Ultimately, our consciousness is presented as God's consciousness, but it's transmitted through these different layers. So like on the spiritual plane, it's the Christic consciousness coming through our superior self. That's the highest, purest expression within us.
Right. And then stepping down on the soul plane, that same divine consciousness shows up as your soul, or soul consciousness. And then finally on the physical plane, we experience it through our brain mind as mortal consciousness. But the key thing Benner keeps stressing is that all these levels are just expressions of God's consciousness transmitted through your superior self. This allows us to realize God as our real self and the one self of all men.
So there's no actual separation, just different ways of experiencing the same single awareness.
That seems to be the core message, yes. No fundamental separation.
Which leads us straight to that ancient, powerful truth Benner brings up. To know God, man must first know himself. And this isn't just about navel-gazing, is it? It's about a really deep self-understanding, going beyond the surface. The text pushes us to see we're not just flesh and blood, but a human soul or center of consciousness, clothed in a garment of flesh.
Yeah. And to help us grasp that, Benner asks us to first think of ourselves as a soul, as pure consciousness. This pure consciousness, he says, it's aware of the outside world through the five senses, sure, but it's also able to pick up internal vibrations, impressions, thoughts coming from other centers of consciousness. Think of it like the quiet awareness underneath all the mental noise, the part of you that just is, before you start labeling or judging things.
Okay, so our human mind then, it serves only as an instrument to receive and inform you of what comes from without in the world of matter. He calls it an outer extension of your soul's consciousness, slowed down to the mental capacity of your human brain. So it's a tool, a processor, but not the whole picture. Like the antenna maybe, not the actual broadcast signal.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting, maybe a bit confronting too. In this partial and necessarily limited consciousness of the brain mind, Benner suggests the mind somehow grew to believe it was a self and to separate itself from you in your soul consciousness. And this imaginary separation then filled the mind with all these misconceptions and beliefs about physical and mental things that started feeling real and tangible. This self-created limited identity is what Benner calls the lower or mortal self. It's basically an illusion born from seeing only part of the picture.
But the really good news, the liberating part, is that these external ideas and the beliefs of that lower self need not have any influence on your soul's consciousness unless you allow them.
Right.
And Benner gives a way to prove it. When you still and quiet your mind and turn away from all thoughts and impressions from without, you tap into pure soul consciousness.
Yeah.
And in that state, you're free to receive impressions from within your soul, like direct guidance from the divine.
And that inner awareness, that higher or inner consciousness, is the spiritual intelligence of your superior or divine self. It's your direct line, unfiltered, to the God within you. So when Benner talks about the superior self, the God-man, Christic consciousness, he's pointing to these progressively more refined, more unified expressions of the single divine source.
So wrapping that section up, Benner basically says there is only one self. What we think of as our separate consciousness, our mortal mind, our individual soul, it's all only God's consciousness diluted into the capacity of the brain mind to contain and use it.
Wow.
It's all one divine awareness, just experienced differently depending on where we're focusing or identifying.
That's a profound summary of it.
Okay, so understanding that naturally leads us to Benner's next crucial phase, the path of cooperation and surrender. He circles back, reminding us that your divine self, that superior self, the Spirit of God within you, is your true self, and this is key. It is your true director.
Yeah, and what really stands out is the here capability he attributes to this inner director. Benner says it has always directed all the activities of your life, has really done everything through you, knows exactly what it is doing, assumes responsibility, and even sees the end before the beginning. It's portrayed as this incredibly intelligent, purposeful force guiding us way beyond our normal understanding.
Which implies that from our human self, our everyday ego, we do nothing and have never done anything completely on our own. All the power, the knowledge, the life we experience ultimately flows from that superior self.
Yeah.
That's quite a shift, isn't it? To see ourselves not as independent agents, but more like instruments for a greater inner will.
It is a big shift, and it leads right to the core of finding real fulfillment. To achieve that lasting freedom, happiness, peace, Benner insists you have to know that self well, learn to cooperate with it, to wait upon it, and serve it in all the activities of your life. It's about aligning your human desires with this inner divine director, not just striving on your own.
And this is where it probably clicks for a lot of us who've tried hard, struggled, maybe felt like we keep failing at things. Benner suggests the reason we fail is because we're attempting things without reckoning with your superior self or without knowing its part in the doing. Basically, we've been trying to go it alone, just relying on our limited human smarts and willpower.
So what's the fix for that pattern? Benner argues that the repeated failures are actually necessary lessons. They continue until one learns the futility of trying to do anything alone, and then becomes willing to turn to it and humbly ask it to take command and willingly surrender everything to it and place your entire trust in it. This humility, this complete surrender, he presents it as absolutely essential, non-negotiable, really.
And it's that surrender, that complete letting go, that allows us to accept the truth of your unreality as a separate ego and the actuality of the God-man within you. This God-man within is that fully realized aspect of your superior self, who can do all things and will provide all things when the human mind is fully surrendered to it. The power gets unlocked when the ego steps aside.
And if you've reached that point, that place of willingness and humility, Benner then shares a great but simple law to follow. This is where it becomes really practical for daily life.
Okay, what's the law?
It's very straightforward. Whatever you have to do it as best you can to please your God self. It's about infusing every single task, no matter how ordinary it seems, with this intention, this devotion, seeing it as an offering to that divine presence inside you.
Okay, that makes sense.
And Benner explains why you have these tasks. The God self placed you where you are now and gave you your specific duties as the best means and opportunity to teach your mind the next lessons you are to learn. And also to develop in you the spiritual qualities you still lack. So every challenge, every job is actually a growth opportunity perfectly designed by your inner wisdom.
Right. So if you've truly surrendered, your only concern is doing what is before you to the best of your ability. You can operate from this deep trust that the God self will provide the power, the understanding, and the ability necessary. And crucially, you are no longer responsible for the results.
That sounds like such a relief from the usual anxiety about how things will turn out.
It really does. And that freedom from needing to control the outcome, born from total trust, is what eliminates the fear, doubt, or worry. Benner sees those negative emotions as literal blockages that obstruct the mind and stop the divine purpose from unfolding smoothly. So only by surrendering everything can you become a clean and open channel for all the good and perfect things it wants to manifest in your life. It's like clearing junk out of a pipe so the water can flow freely.
Exactly. And this is where the text really hits home with a core message. It is all a matter of trust, dear friend, of trust in the God in you. Benner basically says, if your past efforts didn't work out, it's often because the trust wasn't deep enough. He urges us to truly trust the God in you, your superior self, the Christ in you.
So what's the downside then? What happens if we don't manage that trust? If fears, doubts, and worries keep creeping in instead of faith? Benner says they cause us to build negative images of the very outcomes we're afraid of. We keep thinking about them, feeding them energy, until they become like real living things in your mental world.
And eventually, these negative thought forms control in large part your mind, and you become helpless. Every time we give in to them, we feel weaker. Benner is emphatic. And there's only one solution. You must let go completely and turn the entire problem over to God. He says, wash your hands of it, get out from under it, and put all responsibility upon it. It's a really radical act of release.
And that act, that sincere, total letting go, it puts the mind in a state where it's ready to hear its voice and to learn what it has in store for you. It shifts you from just passively worrying to actively listening for divine guidance.
Yes, and once you're truly free from that burden himself and its constant fears, the negative pull just loses its power. Instead, you actually become a positive force simply by believing the divine will handle everything. You give it the opportunity to prove what it can do through your life. It's a huge shift from feeling like a victim to being an empowered co-creator.
Okay, building on that surrender, Benner introduces this idea of absolute detachment. This is the ideal state he's aiming for. To truly let go, turning over the burden you carry and becoming as free as a child.
And the child analogy he uses is just so vivid and powerful. Imagine a little 3-year-old holding their dad's hand at a really busy, noisy crossroads. The child feels totally safe, right? Not scared of the huge trucks or the chaos. They might even enjoy it. Why? Because Daddy's looking out for him and will not let anything happen to him. Daddy provides everything, just like God. The trust is absolute.
And that leads to a really searching question Benner asks us. Do you think your God does not love and care for you as child? He reminds us, part of his very being, and he needs you to express his being. So how could he possibly allow you to really suffer or harm yourself? It completely reframes suffering away from being some kind of divine punishment.
What's really fascinating is Benner's take on suffering itself. He says the suffering and dangers our human minds fear so much are only the nightmares of childhood that disappear when the light of understanding comes.
Okay.
And furthermore, he suggests that mental suffering can actually burn away the qualities of self that hinder his perfect expression. And fears, strangely enough, teach us to become strong. It's like a refining process, not a penalty.
So it's not pointless pain. It often serves a purpose in our growth. The real problem, Benner says, is that these mental fears, which only exist in our heads, are obstructing your mental channel, preventing it from pouring through it the good it expects. The fears themselves are the dams blocking the flow of divine good.
Which immediately raises the question, what do we do about these blockages? Benner's very direct here. You must cleanse your mind of all these negative things, all the doubts, fears, worries, and especially, he says, those wrong images you carry in your consciousness. It's an active, deliberate job of mental house cleaning.
And think about the practical effect. If you keep seeing yourself as sick or poor or in great need, that specific image is blocking the channel. Because, as Benner skates flatly, what you think and carry in your consciousness as being so always manifests. The pictures we hold in our minds, even subconsciously, are constantly creating our reality.
And he warns this isn't just a surface-level tidy-up. You must actually go down into the subconscious and rout them all out and expel them. These old beliefs and fears, they hide in the dark corners of your subconscious, purposely refusing to come to light. Why? Because they instinctively know that the moment you see them as they are, their days are numbered. Awareness is the first step to dissolving them.
So the goal is absolutely clear. Until the mind is clean and free of all negative and false thoughts and feelings, it can't be brought fully into your God consciousness where only positive, true, good, and perfect ideas of yourself exist. Mental clarity is the doorway to higher awareness.
And once the mind is cleansed, Benner promises, you can see all things in their reality as he sees, and you can know as he knows. Your mind becomes a perfect channel for receiving your long-awaited divine inheritance. It's a total transformation in how you perceive and experience life.
Right. So after all this internal work, understanding, surrendering, cleansing, Benner then invites us to actively imagine the God you. This isn't just passive belief, it's about stepping into that divine consciousness, making it feel real. He asks us to try to imagine yourself in the consciousness of your God self. And from that perspective, see with his eyes this self you call you and the other selves around you and the world you live in.
And central to this is understanding that because the God self is omniscient, omnipotent, and loving, and is yet you but a perfect you, it logically must have a perfect mind and body. Though, he clarifies, not as your physical self looks right now in its limited state. It's about envisioning the perfected divine version of your being.
This ties back beautifully to that idea of humanity's original perfection. Our form, Benner reminds us, is the image and likeness of God in which man was originally formed. And he poses that profound question. If God made us like himself, who could change man's perfect being? Not even man himself. Therefore, man must remain perfect.
Which means, essentially, that the true man has not changed. Your true essence is your superior self, the true you, the perfect man as God created him, as he now sees him, and as he will always be. All the imperfections and limits we see in ourselves, they aren't fundamental to our true divine nature.
So Benner explains that what you and others see are creations of mortal man, not of God. They're mere creations of man's separated mind, and they literally have no existence except in the consciousness of his mind and brain. They're like illusions given reality only because we collectively believe in them.
Which immediately begs the question, how did we end up creating this imperfect reality for ourselves? Benner goes back to free will. God gave humanity free will and the power to think as he wished, which inherently means the power to create. We could choose to think good, God's thoughts, or evil, not God's thoughts.
And because early humanity didn't fully grasp its divine nature, relying only on human judgment, it learned through trial and error, by thinking, testing, and finding out what his creations were not. This learning process, unfortunately, led to creating imperfect things and conditions within human consciousness. It accidentally built the illusion of separation and flaw.
But the promise, the potential for return, is always there. Benner points out that many people throughout history have learned this truth, that they can do nothing of themselves, but with the help of the God within them, they can do all things. They can have all things, they can be all things. And with that divine help, they entered and now dwell in their Christic consciousness, actively doing the Father's work on earth.
So what's it like? What do you see in this Christic consciousness, the kingdom revealed? Benner paints a picture of souls living in a perfect world, where all souls are young, good, beautiful, and perfect, just as the Father conceived them. A return to an original, ideal state.
And in this perfect world, everything was designed for the free use and enjoyment of its inhabitants. There's great abundance of all good things, always available to all.
Yeah.
And this is amazing. Whatever is desired is created through thought and can be obtained as and when desired. Imagine that. Effortless manifestation, total provision, governed purely by divine thought.
And just as crucial is what's missing from that world. No selfishness, because the self no longer exists in that separated way. No injustice, because the law of righteousness governs everyone's consciousness. And absolutely no evil, sickness, disharmony, or unhappiness, because Benner says these are all just creations of the mortal mind, not part of God's actual reality.
And understanding this helps us see how and why man is responsible for this outer world, which is his own creation and not God's. It really shifts the responsibility away from some external deity and onto our own collective consciousness and its creative power, used consciously or unconsciously.
This world of God, his kingdom, your heavenly home, Benner says, we can return to it, like a prodigal son. How? Simply by remembering and choosing to see only the truth.
Okay.
It's not about going somewhere physically. It's a shift in consciousness, a return to your true self.
And how do you access it? Your Heavenly Father is waiting for you with open arms, and that Father is your own real self, the God you ever present deep within your soul. The way in is by consciously letting go of everything that presses upon your consciousness from the outer world of the human mind and focusing your attention entirely on the inner world of the spirit.
And this is critical. You must especially refuse to see, to speak, or to let your mind dwell on outer conditions, however difficult they may seem, or however much they seem to affect you. Because Benner insists, they exist only in the world of man's mind and not in the real world that the God you sees and in which he lives. You have to actively disengage from believing in the illusion.
And Benner promises that if you make this firm commitment, you'll soon get evidence of the reality of that inner realm. You'll start to hear its voice and receive definite guidance as to what it wants and what its purpose is for you. It's presented as a path with tangible results, not just wishful thinking.
In all this discipline and development of your mind and character, it has a huge purpose. When you're finally fully surrendered, the divine will take you into his consciousness, and there you will work with him to achieve what he proposed from the beginning. You graduate to being a conscious partner with God.
And you're not doing this alone. Benner reassures us that others are working with you, people who have also found this inner self, discovered a new and wonderful self, a wonderful world and wonderful companions in it.
No.
This inner realm is your eternal home, the kingdom of God's consciousness, the very same reality Jesus described in his many parables.
Okay, wow. We've really covered some incredible ground today, exploring these profound truths. And Benner assures us that knowing this makes it easier for you to free yourself from the old consciousness and the conditions around you and enter the new consciousness that awaits you. Which brings us right to the next step. How do we actually apply all this?
Yeah, Benner is very practical here. He says, the way out has been shown to you, but you must walk it. Nobody else can do it for you. You must earn your right to enter. He's quite blunt. It's not a journey for the lukewarm and the weak-kneed. It takes real personal effort and commitment.
So the next step specifically is to become completely familiar with your real self, seeing it as yourself and going and coming in its consciousness. It's about really starting to identify as that higher self, making it your default perspective in everyday life.
And you're encouraged to practice this daily until you actually feel it within you, to feel it giving you its power, its life, and vitalizing energy and tremble as you realize it. It's about moving beyond just thinking about it to actually experiencing that divine presence within, sensing its energy.
And this practice has to extend to our thoughts and what we focus on. Benner advises making a determined and relentless effort to think only its thoughts and to see and hear only the good and the perfection in everything and everyone, which means consciously choosing to close your eyes and your mind to appearances and looking through them for the good they conceal. It's a deliberate redirection of focus.
And what's powerful about that is how it connects you. When you have that loving desire to find the good, you connect with the good, your God consciousness within you. And that connection will enlighten your mind so you can see and hear what is hidden from mortal consciousness. It's like tuning into a different frequency that reveals a deeper reality.
And the promise of abundance for those who really walk this path is made very clear. With a loving desire to please this God, you'll find the health given to you to do so, especially when you sincerely place your trust in it. It's presented as a responsive relationship.
Benner then goes deeper into Jesus' words here. He says, when your trust becomes absolute, you will learn what it means when it says, if you abide in me and my words abide in you, you may ask what you will and it shall be done unto you. He presents this not just as a nice quote, but as a law that actually operates when trust is unwavering and complete.
And in that state of absolute trust, Benner continues, you'll find you no longer desire anything. Why? For you will know that all that he is and has is yours.
Wow.
And there will be no more need to ask, for he will be continuously giving you of the riches of his kingdom, whose store is inexhaustible. It's a total shift from needing and asking to just constantly, effortlessly receiving.
So the ultimate aim, the daily practice, is to strive every moment of the day, to abide in his consciousness, to place all your trust in him, leaving everything in his hands, knowing he'll handle it perfectly through you. Keeping your mind free from all the usual static doubts, fears, worries, false ideas, anxiety about results. This, Benner says, is what allows the divine to truly and freely live its life in you, to do its will in you, to be himself in you, just as he intended and for which he has been preparing you all your mortal life.
Okay, this leads us to a really powerful, almost, stark choice that Benner lays out, drawing straight from the Sermon on the Mount, the choice between God and mammon. And he introduces this by saying these verses are absolutely crucial for understanding the tribulations that now plague humanity today, and more importantly, how to free oneself from them.
Yeah, what's striking is how relevant he makes this ancient text feel to our current struggles, both personally and societally. He starts with those incredibly famous words, "No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon." He presents this as just a fundamental truth about where we place our loyalty. You can't split it.
And Benner immediately applies it to us right now. He challenges us directly, asking how many of us are actually trying to serve two masters. Who among you at this moment does not fear money and its power? He really makes you think. Who bows before it, money, and daily recognizes its power over you?
It's a pretty uncomfortable question, isn't it? Benner observes that for many, money controls most of your thoughts and actions, getting 100 times more of your thoughts than God. And yet, he points out, we often claim we don't serve mammon. It highlights this huge gap between what we say we believe and how we actually live, often driven by fear.
So the message is just crystal clear. You cannot go on like this. Benner says the time has come to decide whom you will serve, God or mammon. There's a real sense of urgency here, like we're at a collective turning point.
And it makes you wonder, why are things so difficult now? Why these tribulations? Benner's answer is that it's because in the past you tried to serve both God and mammon. And now, he suggests, both have withdrawn their support precisely to force us to make this choice. We're collectively learning the hard way that alone you can do nothing.
And once you do choose, Benner stresses, that is what will be required of you. Complete loyalty. No more trying to have it both ways. No half measures.
He draws an interesting contrast here. Those who truly serve God, placing all their trust in him, are not affected by current conditions and are continually prospered. On the other hand, those who give their loyalty primarily to riches are also greatly prospered apparently, but, he warns, their time of reckoning has not yet come. He seems to be speaking directly to those feeling anxious about material security right now.
Exactly. Benner makes it clear this specific message is for you, who are anxious to serve God and to free yourself forever from the power of riches. It's aimed right at the spiritual seeker feeling trapped by money worries.
And then Benner brings in Jesus' words directly from the Sermon on the Mount as the practical guidance. He quotes, "Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body what ye shall put on." Followed by that profound question. Is not the life more than meat and the body than raiment? It's a radical call to let go of anxiety about basic survival needs.
And to illustrate it, Jesus points to nature. Behold the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns. Yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are you not much better than they? And then, consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Just beautiful metaphors for effortless divine provision.
So the implication is clear. If God takes care of the grass, which is here today and gone tomorrow, will he not much more clothe you, O ye of little faith? Benner uses this to hit right at our core anxieties, inviting us to trust that same life-giving principle within ourselves.
And the contrast between serving the two masters is laid out so starkly by Benner. God's servants, they do not need to worry too much about the affairs of their life. They're promised that God will take care of all these things if they trust in him. They understand his life is in them, just like in the birds and lilies, and he will naturally provide for his own life. This leads to a life of loving, unselfish service.
But mammon, it always holds over its servants the whip of fear, loss, want, and poverty. Those who serve wealth become abject slaves to its demands, growing cold and unfeeling, thinking only of how to satisfy their wholly selfish desires. Benner paints it as a path leading to a fearful, empty existence.
Which leads to the ultimate instruction from Jesus, absolutely central to Benner's teaching. Seek first the kingdom of God. He quotes the full passage. Therefore take no thought, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or wherewithal shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you.
And Benner clarifies the term Gentiles here. He explains it meant pagan, or those who did not belong to God's chosen people, basically. Anyone whose primary focus is anxiety about material needs. What they shall eat or drink, or how they shall be clothed. It draws a line between those who trust divine provision and those who constantly seek security externally.
And that promise of added unto you is so powerful. Benner explains that if we prioritize seeking first the kingdom of God, which he equates with the divine consciousness where love and peace reside, by trusting God completely and serving him, then all things necessary in the physical world will be richly provided. He points out the original Greek actually means superadded, suggesting not just enough, but abundance.
This wisdom also applies to worrying about the future. Jesus says, take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Benner highlights how this encourages us to live fully present, trusting that provision is continuous day by day.
So really, it all boils down to trust and abiding and doing what is right before us to do the best of our ability, leaving the results, the morrow, and all else to God. And Benner declares, this is it. This is the moment when you must choose which side you will be on.
And he's absolutely firm. This choice cannot be a divided or half-hearted service that will no longer be permitted. He basically says, look at your past attempts, you should know by now. That is useless.
It's a call for total surrender, total commitment. You must give up all that you have and are and follow him. God and his kingdom have to come first in your consciousness. Not just sometimes, but a moment-by-moment trust of every day, where the thought of him must supplant every other thought.
And yet Benner ends this incredibly challenging section on such a beautiful, hopeful note. Oh, the joy and blessing of those who have totally surrendered themselves to him in such trust. He paints it not as a burden, but as the path to profound inner peace, true freedom, and an abundance far beyond just material things.
Wow. We have really covered some deep territory today, haven't we? Just exploring this path to higher consciousness, personal freedom, that deeper connection to the superior self, all through Joseph Benner's work. And the core message that keeps coming through is this. There's infinite power right inside each of us, a divine spark. And once we recognize it, trust it, it allows us to become conscious creators of our own lives.
Exactly. And through that process, we start to understand that real freedom, lasting happiness, it's not out there in circumstances or possessions. It's found inside by recognizing and living from our divine nature. So this deep dive, it's not just about learning stuff, it's really about inviting a personal transformation.
Absolutely. So as we begin to wrap up here, I just invite you, our listener, to take a moment and reflect on what you've heard today. Maybe even make a quiet commitment to yourself to try and live each day from this higher awareness, to actively look for the truth, the goodness, the perfection in everything and everyone.
And just remember, Regardless of where you feel you are right now, Benner insists you already possess the inner wisdom, strength, and love you need. Enough to overcome any challenge, enough to create an amazing life. Try to connect with that superior self every day, even for a few moments. Listen for its quiet guidance. Choose to act from that inner truth. And be kind to yourself in the process. Know that every single step you take is bringing you closer to realizing who you truly are.
And for our final provocative thought today, really building on Benner's constant theme of absolute trust. Consider this. If, as he suggests, it's our lack of faith, our deep-seated fears that actually block the divine flow in our lives, then what is the single most deeply rooted fear or belief you're holding on to right now? The one that, if you can entirely surrender it to the divine within you, just let it go completely, might unlock an unimaginable current of good, of abundance, of peace in your life. It's not just an idea to ponder, but maybe an invitation to actively test Benner's simple law in your own experience and see what happens. Thanks so much for diving deep with us today. We look forward to having you with us again next time.